Hello and welcome to the number one championship podcast. The second tier, I'm Ryan Dilks, and of course, it's another live edition of the second tier weekend show. As always, I'm joined by the football Carlos Alcaraz to my tennis Carlos Alcaraz. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Bloody hell, Justin. We've got a lot to unpack here, haven't we?
Yeah, it was a busy old weekend. There's some decent results, quality football, decent goals. Referees doing weird things in tunnels. It's been great. It's been absolutely superb.
It really, really has. I will say before we start, apologies if my voice is a bit worse for where I went to a certain match on Friday night and it's not really recovered since then. We'll get onto later on. But hopefully it holds up for the entirety of this recording. But as we say, we are live once again on this Sunday evening. And if you're joining us live tonight, then thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join and get involved in the conversation. Leave a comment, ask us any questions you want, and we will try to read out as many as we can over the forthcoming hour or so as we go through the weekend's action. And if you are here with us right now or watching afterwards, please remember to like this video and subscribe. It's the best way to help support us and the work we do. And if you're listening to the podcast edition of this, then leave a rating on whichever podcast platform you are listening to us on. Just one final bit of admin before we get underway here tonight, ladies and gents. We will be doing another live stream tomorrow night for transfer deadline day. We will be doing the final hour of the transfer window, so we'll be going live from 6 o'clock, talking about all the deals which have happened so far in the day and possibly going to be happening over the strange deals that happen after the deadline goes past. So yes, we look forward to speaking with you all about that tomorrow as well. But let's talk about the weekend first of all, Justin, and we begin with the surprise news from this Sunday afternoon. Javi Gracia has resigned as Watford manager after less than 4 months in charge. It came after they lost 2-0 to Swansea. Well, I didn't expect this one.
Well, the most surprising thing about this one is it's a surprise, right? Being at Watford.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was the long-term option. And I know Watford long-term is different to everybody else's long-term, but I expected Gracia to at least see out the season and reassess come the summer. But yeah, it's been a bit of a wild story breaking on Sunday afternoon. I think as the reason why this has taken us by surprise as much as it has is because things have been quiet for Watford. The noise has been very little from them. There's not been much unrest or fan frustration. It's been quite minimal compared to what we come to expect with Watford. Likewise, rumours surrounding managerial futures. So yeah, this is actually a surprise. And it's Watford.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right. It's not one I saw coming, but it is a lot less surprising after seeing what Gracia said following the loss to Swansea on Saturday. It was a pretty dull game in truth. Swansea were the better side, particularly in the second half. But Gracia was clearly very unhappy after the game. He said, "We are in a very difficult moment. I want to speak with the owner and to know how they feel, because I'm really disappointed with the level of the team, the situation of the team, and maybe the future of the team as well." Gracia is said to have met with the club's board earlier today. And that was that. Watford put out a statement saying, "We retain the belief Javi was the right man to lead the club towards its push for promotion, but Javi felt no longer he had the motivation and was not the right man to continue coaching this exciting group of players." So he's quite clearly pissed off and thinks the squad isn't good enough, Justin. He wanted more players before the transfer window closed, and it seems like he's been told he's not getting them. So a rather extraordinary meltdown from him.
Yes, and it's quite a surprise because Gracia, for me, has always come across as quite a mellow person. And if you are a Watford coach, you are a bit of a yes guy, aren't you? So there's always been that expectation, I guess, if you're going into Watford, that what you get is what you get. And if you don't like it, it's not going to work. Clearly, that's been the case. So, yeah, Gracia's done some interesting manoeuvring here. And perhaps he was trying to force the owner's hand, and they just said, "Well, no, we're not going to recruit, so therefore you're not going to stay either." And he handed in his resignation. And fair play to him because you don't get that very often. So, yeah, he's really put his foot down, and it's somewhat backfired on him. And it's a shame really because he's a nice guy, and he has turned this Watford team around somewhat. Although they have had a bit of a slump recently. but they did at some one point look like to start to be a side who was going to push for the top six, and now it's not currently the case, and they've got to start again.
Yeah, well, the strange thing is for me, Watford were playing really well up until 3 weeks ago. They had won 4 on the bounce, and they looked really, really impressive. It looked like Gracia was really getting a tune out of this squad. And then ever since the 5-1 thrashing against Bristol City in the Cup, it's all gone a bit Pete Tong, and it now appears as we have an answer as to why that's the case. Those who cover Watford on a regular basis will tell you that Gracia has been pretty agitated for a while now. He was clearly expecting more transfer business to be done. He's not got it. The question is, are his frustrations fair? And I think, judging from what I'm seeing on social media, a lot of Watford fans will tell you no. Because you look at the bench for their game against Swansea, Georgie Chakvetadze, Quadro Bar, Nestor Irankunda, all starting on the bench. 3 very talented players, Chakvetadze in particular, would get into just about every side in the division, I think. But Gracia clearly doesn't trust any of them. And then there are other players who have been effectively banished from the squad for whatever reason, including Jeremy Patrice, who cost over $1 million back in the summer. So while he might not be happy with the squad, and he's entitled to that opinion, it doesn't seem like things are that bad that it's worth throwing your toys out the pram, in my view anyway. And so, look, the headline will be Watford change manager again. They're looking for I think this is their 23rd or 24th manager they'll be looking for now since the Pozzos took over. But I think this might be one of the rare occasions where they're not at fault here, Justin.
Yeah, I'm sort of in two minds, really, because I think the squad is good. I really do. And they're only off 4 points off the top 6 with the game in hand. And yes, form has dropped off a bit, but it wasn't that long ago that they were the form team in the division. And given what we've heard from Gracia, he obviously wanted a lot more. And maybe the squad does need a tad more experience. But even out of the players that he's got, it's a really good group. It's a group that I've rated for the entire season. I know you weren't too hot on it in the summer, but there's a lot of potential here. And as a coach, you've got to drive that potential. And clearly his ambitions are, he wants more, he wants promotion. And he's a top flight coach. It's all he's been doing a lot of in his career. So I get this frustration there. But for me, I do agree with you to some extent as well that Watford are probably right in this scenario, but it has shafted. I mean, they wanted him in the summer, couldn't get him because he was having surgery, and they went out and got him after releasing Pezzolano. And now it's like, well, what do they do now? But with Gracia, I think letting his frustrations go as public as this was probably the wrong thing to do. Because again, that just fires a lot of unrest or potential unrest at the owners, which, as you say, probably aren't in the wrong here.
No. As you were saying, they were playing pretty well not too long ago. So he clearly had the tools needed to get a playoff place. He clearly wanted more tools or better tools or whatever. And he's not got them. But it still just seems a bit weird to press the self-implode button because you haven't got your way. Unfortunately, the sad reality of it is that it does mean Watford are effectively back at square one, doesn't it? For years now, we've bemoaned them changing managers, and even though this one may not have necessarily been their fault, they're back in the cycle again. I did say at the time that Javi Gracia did seem like a bit of an odd choice. I'm never too keen on clubs going back to former managers in the first place. And while at one point they did look very good, he does have a tendency to wear his heart on his sleeve. So there was always the chance of it ending in tears, and that's what we've now had. So, look, that's done and dusted, I guess. The question is now, where do Watford go next, Justin? First things first, and we say this every single time Watford are looking for a new manager, because it's a fairly common thing in the second tier. It needs to be someone who they stick with, doesn't it?
It's always got to be someone they stick with. But I guess from their perspective, they are quite happy to have a manager until the end of the season. Where they go, Watford is so unique that guessing where they go next is so difficult because they are very agent-led. They've had a foreign coach from overseas this season in Paolo Pezzolano. They've had a familiar face in Javi Gracia. They could turn to an internal appointment with Charlie Daniels. He's taken over the next game.
Yeah. Well, the Watford cycle usually goes in experienced manager, unknown foreign manager. So that now means we are on course for young, up-and-coming manager, I think. That's usually how the cycle goes, isn't it?
Well, I think we can also enter the criteria of experienced English manager because they've had Nigel Pearson and Chris Wilder in there as well. If we wanted to really break down the criteria, mainly because I just wanted to link the likes of Guy Rowett, Tony Mowbray, and Steve McLaren to the job. Why not?
Where does Steve McLaren come from?
I was looking for out-of-work English managers over the age of 50, and these guys came up. So
Okay, fair enough then.
But yeah, I suspect they'll go overseas. Yeah.
Maybe it's, as you say, Watford are they're not the kind of club who stick to one thing, are they? They are more than happy to go for a wide spectrum of managers, and it's got to be said the decision making on Watford is mixed at the best of times, isn't it? Because you look at the recent appointments, Javi Gracia, they went back to Paolo Pezzolano, very forgettable. Tom Cleverley, they got him because he was already at the club. Valérien Ismaël, meh. Chris Wilder, a disaster. The list goes on. So are Watford going to find the guy this time around who will be the one they finally stick with and gets them into the playoffs? Based off their recent track record, I've unsurprisingly got my doubts. Maybe it could be Charlie Daniels, because, as you say, he's been put in caretaker charge. In the meantime, we spoke to him in the summer, didn't we, Justin? So, nice little turnaround for him. He told us a lot about his managerial ambitions in that particular interview. So, make sure you go back and listen to that for his take on coaching. But let's go on to some more of the weekend's action, Justin. And we've got to go to Coventry City, because it's a seismic weekend for them, isn't it? Their lead at the top of the Championship has been wiped out. It's after they suffered back-to-back defeats for the first time in the league this season. 2-1. They lost away at QPR. 3-word reviews for QPR. Arthur says, Nico Madsen Masterclass. Fly on our Patreon says, Richard effing Kone. Matt on our Patreon says, Frank Lampard Bottle. For Coventry, Natalie says, absolutely abysmal. JP says, players giving up. Cheryl says, so long, Premiership. QPR had to come from behind to win this one, Justin, but you'd have to say the win was entirely deserved.
Absolutely was. It really, really was. Coventry didn't create an awful lot. And what QPR did create, they really did punish Cov. As well as that, I thought it was a game well managed from QPR, and obviously reacting from a goal down as well. But actually, 2-1 probably doesn't really do the game justice, because there's at least two other chances really that QPR should have put away. There was a header in the first half. I think there was a 1-on-1 in the second half. And I would argue that Paul Smith should have had a penalty as well.
Oh my God, that was a stone waller. How was that not given?
I know. It absolutely blew my mind. But he should have been given a penalty, and again, it could have potentially been an even worse day for Coventry. But yeah, a brilliant performance from QPR, where scoring twice here doesn't really do them justice.
No, absolutely not. And keep in mind, the reverse fixture of this game was 7-1 to Coventry.
Yeah, forgot about that. Generally forgot about that.
Yeah, feels like a long time ago that now, doesn't it? Because you would have never guessed which team looked so dominant on that day if you just watched this game, because QPR had the better chances throughout. Richard Kone came closest when the scores were 0-0, forcing a brilliant save from Carl Rushworth from a header. You mentioned the penalty, but a Stonewall gets. I cannot believe that wasn't given. And Coventry did go ahead with what turned out to be their only shot on target until stoppage time, which gives you a good idea of how things went in this game. That lead didn't last long, with QPR going level, and then eventually QPR found themselves ahead, and it always felt like it was coming. And from my perspective, I was looking at this game thinking, surely Coventry are going to come flying out the traps here now in the final 90 minutes and really give QPR a barrage, but it never came. Coventry had just 2 shots, and it felt like QPR were never in danger of losing that lead, which is incredible to say about a side who are breaking all sorts of records in the Championship for the number of goals they were scoring earlier in the season. But this team looks a shadow of that side, doesn't it, Justin? And it's now just 4 wins in 13. Coventry winless away from home since the end of November, and it's seen them go from 10 points clear at the start of December, a record-breaking lead at that stage, to now only being topped by virtue of goal difference. How on earth have they thrown this away in the space of just a couple of months, Justin?
Complete defensive neglect is the easiest way to sum that up. It's funny that you mentioned that you expected a Coventry barrage in the final phases of this game. We said that on Monday against Norwich. We expected them to come out of the traps there, and they didn't. It really, really is poor. But more so on that complete neglect of defensive duties. 4 wins in 13 is a pretty ugly record for a team pushing for promotion, whether that be via the playoffs or top two. I think actually the scariest thing that I'm seeing here is Frank Lampard isn't trying to remedy the issues. The issues we saw on Monday night against Norwich were very present here. The midfield got walked through several times again. The Maddison goal, I know Rushworth palms it into a pretty dangerous position, but Maddison has a free shot. He's got no one matching his run, no one blocking his run, no one making it difficult for him. He had a free shot on goal, and that stems from having absolutely no shape out of possession, and no shape in returning back to possession when teams turn over the possession themselves. It is so poor, and when you're not creating chances yourselves like they did here, and they stop opening teams up, the defence really is exposed. I cannot describe how open they are. It's so poor. I don't know whether it's arrogance of we're going to score more than you, or just tactical naivety. Either way, it is not a good look on Frank Lampard or Coventry.
Yeah, well, I thought Coventry might be getting back on track with back-to-back wins, but all that hard work has been undone in just a space of a few days, and Coventry are back where they started, aren't they? Having one of the most incredible meltdowns we've ever seen in the Championship. And let's call it what it is. It's a meltdown. Even before the halfway stage of the season, Coventry had 1 foot in the Premier League. They were full value for that 10-point lead because they had been by far and away the best team in the league up until that point. But we said at the time, during the tail end of their long winning run, that they were looking a bit shaky, particularly at the back, and that's just manifested itself to the point where this team has crumbled. As you say, defensively, they've been all over the place. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 8. Mad to think at one stage they broke a club record for the longest spell without conceding a goal earlier in the season. And you spent a lot of time talking about the defence there, Justin, so I don't want to repeat everything you've said. But I think another thing that's got to be pointed out here is this attack, which was scoring goals for fun, they're definitely not doing that anymore. 13 goals in 12 games. That is not befitting of a team getting automatically promoted, is it? And it's not like they're missing chances either. As we were talking about with the QPR game at the end, they're not creating anything. They're not controlling games either. They look shaky. They look nervy. And these players are clearly struggling to cope with the pressure. And Frank Lampard is clearly struggling to address the problems here.
Yeah, you mentioned the goals drying up. It helps when you get your forwards in the game. Ellis Sims had 16 touches in 71 minutes.
Yeah,
here it's strikingly poor, and that's why I think Jack Redoney probably needs to be taken out of that number 10 position. And they need a change in shape to rebuild that confidence, because what is happening at the moment is everything we ranted about when Frank Lampard was appointed. The tactical naivety and whatnot. It's showing itself here, and this is why there was so much skepticism. Okay, he's had a really good spell, and he has proved us wrong to some extent, but he's also proving us right here because he's not changing things. And like I said, if your team's being walked through midfield, you need to change your shape. You need to change your mentality. You need to keep clean sheets, especially if you're not creating chances. 63% of the ball in this game. 63%. They created nothing. It's not good enough. And 13 goals in 12 games isn't terrible, because you can go through dry passages as a club, even if you are chasing promotion. But you've got to be grinding games out 1-0. You've got to have an edge about you defensively. This team doesn't. It doesn't. And you might say we're being harsh here, but a team that was so good in October to being so bad now is such a contrast.
I don't think anyone would say we're being too harsh here, Justin, because look at what's happening. And look, we are Lampard critics. Everyone knows that. We've been Lampard critics for a long time, even though we did concede that there was an element of us being wrong earlier in the season. But on the whole, up until recently, we haven't had anything to criticise him over. Certain things could have been better, of course, but you could not have made serious criticisms about a side who were as dominant as they were. Now they're not. And look, drop-offs happen. They were always going to have a drop-off at some point. But the real test of this side and of the manager was how they were going to deal with that.
Yeah.
and they're not dealing with it. They are spiralling, and the manager doesn't seem to know what to do about it. Lampard's man management throughout the time he's been at Coventry has been excellent, in fairness to him, in terms of getting players playing above their level. But this is proving to be a very difficult task when it goes the complete other way and you've got to get them playing again after having such a drop-off. I think it's strange how he doesn't change the team more, because that defence has not been right for a long time now, yet he's persisted with the same back four in pretty much every game whenever they're available, despite having a £4 million centre-half in Luke Wolfenden just sat on the bench. I look at someone like Jack Radoni. He's been picked in pretty much every game during Coventry's decline in form, even though he looks a shadow of the player he was. I've picked him out, but he's just one example in this entire team. But look, the bottom line is that 10-point lead at the top is gone. Coventry fans would like to win the league, yeah, but that's not the goal. The goal is getting promoted. So Middlesbrough catching up with them, it's not the end of the world. But Hull and Ipswich are hot on their trail, and they both have a game in hand. And that means the pressure, if they were struggling with the pressure before, that pressure is only cranking up more and more, Justin.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later on in the show about pressure and clubs dealing with the pressure. It's not so much of an issue of Middlesbrough catching them up. I mean, it is, because they had record-breaking lead. It's the teams that are now that was so far behind are catching them up as well. That's how poor the run has been, and that's only going to add to the pressure. And as well as that, we're in a critical period. Signings need to be made, and I don't think Coventry have added to the squad nearly as much as they probably needed to. One thing I wanted to point out about pressure, about leadership, the spine of the team, I think, is incredibly weak. It's incredibly weak. Lampard's not sold on either Haji Wright or Ellis Sims. Matt Grimes is isolated in the midfield defensively. And the two centre-halves, Bobby Thomas and Liam Kitching, are not strong enough together. And that's a problem. Carl Rushworth's the only benefit there. It needs to be sorted out very, very quickly. Otherwise, I'll be blunt, this team's not getting promoted.
Got a couple of comments here from YouTube community member King Caboose, who says Coventry aren't going up. You heard it here first. W. Tyra Kaz says, I can genuinely see us, Coventry, finishing 5th. Ever since you made the video about being wrong about Frank Lampard, we haven't been the same. The biggest ever lead in Championship history gone and bottled. If you do have any comments that you have about the games that we're talking about here today, then by all means, please leave them. We'll try to read out as many as we can over the forthcoming show. But yeah, we've talked a lot about Coventry there. I will just say before we move on to quickly talking about QPR, who aren't going to get the credit they deserve in this section, but Coventry's Brandon Thomas Asante has been given a 3-match ban for his elbow on Norwich's Pelle Mattisson last Monday, which I think is fair, isn't it? But let's give that brief word to QPR, Justin, who weren't in great shakes themselves heading into this, just 1 win in 8, that win being their Sheffield Wednesday voucher. So a brilliant win and performance from them here.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a complete day for them. They were active going forwards. They managed the game really well. They isolated a lot of players. Sakamoto was pretty poor. Romain S, when he came on from Mason Clark, didn't get a sniff, and he's been in good form as well. Ellis Sims was isolated. It's not necessarily down to Coventry's faults, although there are a lot of them, but it's good game management from QPR, and actually how they were breaking on the counter was really impressive. It's befitting of a well-coached team from Julian Stefan, and again, he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think your long-standing theory about them being a streaky side does appear to have legs, so it wouldn't be a surprise to me if they now go on a big winning run. But I'm still feeling optimistic about my fabled dark horses, because I think they have been unlucky with injuries in recent weeks, but you've got Richard Kone, who's been out of form. Him getting on the score sheet here could easily spark a run. They've got Ronnie Edwards, who's made his debut in this game. He's coming into the side. I think will be an exceptional signing. I'm sure about that. So I've definitely not been put off by them. Playoffs still very much on for Julian Stefan's boys, in my view. Let's have a look back at how we did with our predictions in Friday's preview show. And it was another good weekend for me, ladies and gents. That's because I extended my lead once again. My outsider of QPR to beat Coventry came in. No luck with my banker of Leicester to beat Charlton, which does feel like a bit of a strange pick in hindsight. Justin got a point with his banker of Hull to beat Blackburn, which he actually could have chose as his outsider. Would have got more points if he wasn't a United's hit. His actual outsider, which was Sheffield United to beat Millwall, didn't come in. So I've increased my lead by a point, and you've really shot yourself in the foot this weekend, haven't you, Peachy?
I haven't, because as I tested so many times, Hull were not the outsiders.
They were.
They weren't. They weren't.
The odds didn't swing that much after you picked them. I can understand if they did, because I wouldn't want to be picking the same team as you when it came to my bets. But
That's what shifted it.
yes, exactly. But there we go, ladies and gents. The scores are now 32-20 to myself for the season. So that's a big old lead for the boy RD. If you're enjoying tonight's show, ladies and gents, then now is the perfect time to sign up for our second tier YouTube membership community. For just £4.99 a month, you'll get custom emojis to use in these live streams and the comment section of every YouTube video. You'll also get access to the second tier Discord, where you can chat to us and loads of other Championship fans. And in addition to that, you'll get an exclusive video from us every single week. Just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button to sign up now. A stunner from Hayden Hackney saw Middlesbrough beat Norwich 1-0 and make it 5 wins on the bounce and go level with Coventry at the top of the Championship. 3-word reviews for Middlesbrough. Dylan says, "Hail Hayden Hackney." UTB says, "Holy fucking hellball." Burapamo says, "Better each week." Steptoe says, 10-0 in reference to the points gap. For Norwich, Jamie says, "Lost but good." What a result for Kim Hellberg's boys, Justin.
Oh, God, yeah. Weirdly, this wasn't a game that you typically associate with a Kim Hellberg side, in that they're such a potent team going forwards. They gallivant, they push, they press, they shoot, they create chances. This was a tight game, a really tight game, and not open at all. But what they did here was they managed a very good in the moment Norwich team in great form, aren't they? Norwich, they managed them. They nullified them a lot. Norwich had a couple of half chances, so did Borough. But I think the most impressive thing to come away from this is it was a very well managed game from Borough's point of view. The goal came from a screamer from Hayden Hackney, and that was a mistake from Norwich as well that led to that screamer. So it wasn't like they were opening them up, but it was just game management, defensive work, hard graft, and that's what you need at this stage of the season.
Yeah, it was a very even game, wasn't it? You would have not guessed that there were 17 places separating these two sides, because we've obviously talked a lot about Norwich and their upturn in form, and considering this was a meeting between two sides who have spent most of the season at opposite ends of the table, you would have not guessed that at all. Norwich gave a really good account of themselves here, and the difference ultimately proved to be a moment of brilliance from a magnificent player, didn't it? So a hard-fought win for Middlesbrough, but it does make it 5 on the bounce. They've become just the third team to manage 5 successive wins in the Championship this season. And it's almost been the perfect weekend for them, hasn't it? Coventry losing to go level on points with them. Ipswich drawing, Millwall drawing. The only downside was Hull winning, but still doesn't get much better a weekend than that for Borough, does it?
Oh, it is perfect. It is perfect. I think to round off the perfection is they showed the cojones you need at this stage. When you're up against it, like the last 5-10 minutes of this game, it was really hairy for Borough. Norwich were pressing. It was ugly. It was rigid. It was tricky. So yeah, it was a really impressive, and that's what adds to that perfection. In that all the results go for you. You keep a clean sheet at home. You lay down a good side, and you get 3 points against them, and you come away very confident, because that shows that you can win all manner of games, and that's such an important asset at this stage of the season, as I've already said.
Got a couple of comments here. This is from Michael. Luke Ayling is cementing himself as a cult hero this game. He had Ahmed on strings. Yep, Luke Ayling will do that. Dwayne says, if Middlesbrough don't go up, will they lose Hayden Hackney to a Premier League club? Yes, is the answer to that,
absolutely.
Dwayne. Pretty simple one, I think, because he is an unbelievable player. And you look at things, Justin, now, it's looking more and more like it's Middlesbrough's season, doesn't it? This was a very tricky game. Could have easily been a very frustrating afternoon. It was definitely a lot more hard fought than some of their recent wins, particularly that 4-0 thumping of Preston last weekend. But a very good habit to have is finding different ways to win games. And even if the goal comes from a wonderful strike like that, the resilience afterwards to hold on to the lead and grind it out is really impressive, isn't it? And as you said, the game management from Kim Hellberg was top class. As far as promotion is concerned, Middlesbrough are in a great position now, aren't they? They have got all the momentum. Obviously, they've gone level with Coventry, but Coventry seem to be going in the other direction. Ipswich looked like they were moving through the gears. Now, not as sure. Hull going strong, but Borough are a fair way ahead of them. And right now, Justin, the highway to Hellberg seems to be heading straight to the Premier League.
Oh yeah, it was one thing I was discussing it with a friend over the weekend. Is I really want to see Middlesbrough in the Premier League 'cause it's just very nostalgic. It's one of those clubs. But actually, the way they play football might be so intriguing to see how they adapt under Kim Hellberg. But with this, the momentum that they've got, it's all about peaking at the right time, isn't it? It's all about peaking at the right time and getting things right at the right time, i.e., making sure you're still creating chances, you're edging your games, but also you're keeping clean sheets as well. And Middlesbrough are doing that where Ipswich are failing, where Coventry are failing, and doesn't matter. Well, it does matter what you do between August and October, but where it really matters is between January and April, because then that sets you up for the final legs of the season. So what they've got now is that momentum. They've got Hull and Millwall pushing on them as we've discussed. That adds to the pressure, but Borough are the ones coping with that pressure. They're embracing the pressure. It feels like they're embracing it, which is the key thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. The next couple of games feel massive in Middlesbrough's season. They've got Sheffield United away a week on Monday, and then Coventry away the Monday afterwards.
God.
Win both of them, and it'll be hard to see Middlesbrough not going up, won't it? That is a massive next couple of games for Middlesbrough. A couple of extra bits while we're talking about this, Justin. The referee for this game, Ben Toner, spotted doing keepy-uppies in the tunnel beforehand. And I tell you what, he's got a bit about him, hasn't he?
He does. There was, I don't know. I didn't count them. I should have counted them, actually. He did a lot of keepy-uppies.
Yeah. Both feet, fully in control.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
Can you do keepy-uppies with both feet?
So, yeah, kind of. Not for very long. I can't do it like regularly, but I could do it. I could do 30 keepy-uppies in a row, I reckon.
But it is hard. And you play football on the reg. So this dispels the rumours that referees can't play. Because I bet 90% of people who say that referees can't play cannot do two keepy-uppies. So fair play to the ref here. Fair play.
Yeah. I'd like to know who the best footballing referee is. That would be very interesting.
Get a podcast going. Referees.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And
just one final thing while we're talking about Norwich. Steve, former Norwich midfielder Gabriel Sara has finally received his award for being included in the PFA Team of the Year. Only issue is that was for the 2023-24 season. How's it taken this long for him to be awarded that?
Why can't they mail it? Why can't they mail it? I don't understand this. I'm so confused by it.
Surely he would have got given it on the night. If he wasn't there, then surely they just send it to Norwich. It's
with a club official. It
makes
makes no sense. It's 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
You can mail things. You can get them delivered.
Yeah, incredible scenes. Let's go to Blackburn, where a late winner from the debuting Lewis Kumas saw Hull get a 1-0 win away at Ewood Park. 3-word reviews for Hull. Phil says got it done. Lee says third place Tigers. Coxie says reeling Coventry in. Nick says top two charge. For Blackburn Dave on our Patreon says fuck off Ishmael. Jack says we're going down. Mikey says Wigan sounds nice. What a moment for Kumas on his Hull debut, Justin, even if there was a slight hint of offside.
He was offside. We'll point that out. He was. It was fantastic. I'm really made up for him because something that I said in the preview show, he likes running in behind from the inside, and this is where his goal came from. He's clearly a talented player. He's just needed a side who's going to give him those opportunities. And in a Hull team that loves a counter attack, he's going to get a lot of these scenarios. So long may it continue. But getting a win, getting a goal, getting a winner, getting relatively late in the game as well, just kind of really boosts your confidence at the right time.
Yeah, he also produced one of the most astonishing passes I've seen this season, and outside of the boot through ball to put Cal Joseph clean through. It's a shame it was Cal Joseph he put through, because otherwise he probably would have got the assist of the season. But considering how rough his time at Birmingham was, I was hoping he'd do well at Hull, and it is just one game, obviously, but it's already a lot better than his entire Birmingham spell. So hopefully this is the start of things to come, and we see him really flourish as a player. As for the game itself, this wasn't a classic. The Hull manager, Sergei Yukirich, even said afterwards, "You will not buy a ticket for this game. My eyes are bleeding," which is which is a good summary if it's not slightly over the top. But Blackburn did have a few chances. It could have been a very different result on another day. Not that Hull will care because it's 4 wins on the bounce now for them. And it's seen them move up to third, just 5 points off Coventry and Middlesbrough. Those Tigers are on the prowl, Justin.
Yeah, everyone's getting mauled by the Tigers. I love how self-aware Sergei Yukirich is because he's so blunt and he's great on the touchline as well. He's good. He's good entertainment, and so is Hull side. But I think when you talk about this team being in for promotion, what I said recently is that they're so good at winning games in different ways because despite this not being a fantastic one, Hull had a lot of chances to beat Blackburn here. They look really slick on their counter attack, and I think if they were a little bit more sharp in the final third, they could have been more comfortable in this game. But I think the key thing is they are a team who creates high value chances, and what I mean by that is they're getting into much better scoring positions than they were earlier on in the season, and that's a really good habit to have at this stage. So I'm going to say I don't think this Hull team are going anywhere. I think they're here to stay.
Well, we've said that at various stages, haven't we? Everyone expected Hull to drop off, and they haven't shown any reasons why they're going to. And you say, is promotion out of the question? Is the title completely out of the question? I mean, the way things are going right now, I don't think that's completely out of the question here. But they just keep finding these wins and are definitely looking in a better state right now than certain teams are at the top of the table. So this incredible season is showing no signs of stopping, even if they weren't at their best in this game. I think that's fair to say. But it'd be interesting to see if they sign anyone else before the transfer window closes to help them stay the course. There could be a bizarre departure, Justin, because TalkSport say West Ham have inquired about the availability of John Egan. Yeah. What?
Yeah. Look, he's not going anywhere.
Surely not. How old is he now? He must be...
He's 33.
I was going to say, he's nearing his 60s, isn't he? But it's just a very strange link.
It is, but it isn't, because it's West Ham. You go, actually, no, this makes sense. This checks out, because West Ham's transfer ability to identify players is... Are they too good for us and we're never going to get them? Or are they
John Egan?
Are they a mid-championship quality player? That's their strategy at the moment. It's so ridiculous and befits a club on the way down.
Yeah. Well, no disrespect to John Egan. He's been a very solid player at this level for a long time. He's very experienced. He's been very good for Hull, but it just seems like a very strange move for West Ham. But nonetheless, we'll see if that does happen as the transfer window winds down. Let's talk Blackburn, Justin, because it's just 1 win in 15 for them. They're in the relegation zone, 3 points from safety. Things are looking pretty dire for them, aren't they?
Yeah, and Valérien Ismaël's out of excuses. The football is poor, chance creation is down, way down. Recruitment has been so-so, but yeah, when you talk about the Championship know-how living in the summer, all of that is useful at this stage. You know, your Lewis Travises, etc. It's very useful assets to have, and that does make Valérien Ismaël's job easier. But on the face of it, they've scored 6 goals in 10 games in all competitions. Only conceded 12 in that time, which isn't awful for a team expecting to want to finish low mid-table as a big ambition this season. But going forward, they're so bad. So maybe it's time for change. As I said, he's out of excuses. The pitch is soaking up better now. He's had players come into the club as well, and he's not got the formula right at all. It's not good for him at all.
No, and things aren't helped at Blackburn with bad PR stories like them getting sued by their kit supplier because Macron claim they've breached their contract for talking to other suppliers. And while it doesn't mean a great deal in the grand scheme of the season, things like this, banning journalists earlier in the season, it's not a great look for a club who aren't one of the best run. I think, from my perspective, I've watched Blackburn a fair bit recently. I don't think they've been terrible. Don't get me wrong, they're definitely not great. They're competitive in most games, though. You're right, going forwards is where the biggest issues lie. That's been the case all season. And Valérien Ismaël is clearly struggling to amend that. If things don't change soon, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't lose his job. The reports I saw earlier today said they might be looking at getting Tony Mowbray back, which would be interesting. But yeah, we'll see if that comes to fruition at some point in the near future. In Leicester's first game since sacking Marty Cifuentes, they suffered a 2-0 defeat at home to Charlton. 3-word review for Charlton. Charlton Vibes says Jones masterclass. Tim says turning a corner for Leicester. Mark says League One performance. Heading into this game, Charlton had won just 2 of their last 14 and only won 2 points from their last 8 away games. So that gives you a good idea of how bad a result this is from a Leicester City perspective, Justin.
Well, we just look at the values of the squads, look at the difference in player quality, look at where the clubs were 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Yes, this was so bad from a Leicester point of view. And that's not to put any discredit on Charlton. They've worked their way up to the Championship and certainly been quite competitive this season. But from a Leicester point of view, this needed to be 3 points, especially after the week that they've had. But this was horrific. This was horrific. To a man, Charlton were much more enthusiastic. They were switched on. They were driven. They had that bite, the fight that you need to grind games. And look, Leicester have not been on it all season. Games have been tight. But again, the 2-0 doesn't really tell you the reality of this, because Charlton could have punished them a little bit more, and it could have been 3-0 because a Harry Clark goal was ruled out for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So this was a bad performance.
No idea why that goal was ruled out, but yeah, you're right. This game was an absolute shambles from start to finish for Leicester, beginning with that embarrassing red card for Caleb Okoli in the 15th minute. What the hell was he complaining about, Justin?
No. What was he complaining about? It's completely valid. I have no idea why he looked confused when he saw the red card. But why is he dragging Miles Leaburn down 40, 50 yards away from the goal?
Yeah. It is a bizarre decision, isn't it? And he didn't even try to hide it. It's so obvious what he's doing.
Honestly. What was his? I need to know what his argument was with the ref. We need to hear the audio from that scenario, because what was he arguing to try and get him out of trouble? I honestly astounded by it. But look, these players are absolutely fucking clueless. Let's be honest.
It's the most blatant shirt pull you'll ever see on a player who's through on goal. And I've never seen such unjustified complaints to a referee before, because I mean, that just goes to show footballers will genuinely complain about anything, won't they? Because it's the clearest red card you'll ever see. And as I say, shambles from start to finish this game for Leicester. As you were alluding to, Charlton had a goal disallowed, which shouldn't have been. It didn't matter anyway, because Charlton would score 2 before half-time, and then the afternoon was summed up by Jordan Ayew missing a penalty in the second half. Everything that could go wrong went wrong here. So a nightmare start for Andy King in caretaker charge. And this is a game that provides further evidence of why Leicester need to get this managerial appointment right. Otherwise, they could find themselves in big danger. I mean, they were already in danger, but really big danger.
Yeah, I think Leicester are in big danger. It's in capital letters with an exclamation mark. They're in big danger. The club is a state. I mean, I saw reports of them dropping Enzo Maresco a message, which he definitely ignored, by the way. He definitely left them on red.
Who did?
But the club's got no idea what they're doing, and that's the danger. The results are poor, the performances are poor, but actually the biggest danger at the football club is no one's got a Scooby of how to get them out of this, up the top. But as well as that, they need to get in a manager who's a leader. But I think that will ruffle feathers behind the scenes. I think there's too much ego, and as I say, misplaced loyalty at the top, and that's a big problem. I just don't think this club or this job is attractive at all. I really, really don't. I think they're going to struggle to really convince people. And again, I think their ambitions are going to be completely misplaced as well. They're in a real spot here, and the biggest danger is what's going on upstairs.
Yeah, well, they're 16th, and as I've said plenty of times, that position in the table massively flatters them. But now the results are turning. They're managerless, and they are in desperate need of stability. And we heard from the owner this past week who was saying just as much. I think Leicester are at a stage now where they just need to get a manager until the end of the season to stave off relegation, and then they can have this big refresh which the fans are obviously desperate for, and the owner was talking about in midweek, because Leicester have now lost at home to Oxford and Charlton, two teams who are prime candidates for relegation. The bar has not been this low in a long time. Their next games over the next month and a half are absolutely brutal as well. They're away at Birmingham next. Not long after that, they've got to face Middlesbrough, Norwich, and Ipswich. I am looking at that and thinking there is plenty of room for this to get worse and worse, especially with a potential points deduction due any day now. So it's a very worrying time for Leicester, as we've said a lot recently, but it seems to be only getting more and more worrying. And speaking of terms of teams in trouble, it's not getting any better for Eric Ramsey at West Brom. It's now just 1 point from 4 games for him after a 3-0 defeat away at Portsmouth. 3 road reviews for Portsmouth. Dan says, well-deserved win. Scott says, we've got Adams. For West Brom, Irish Baggy says, an absolute disgrace. Chris says, absolute shit show. Stu says, League One beckons. Another team who nothing is going right for right now.
I've never seen such a catastrophic replacement of a manager before in my life. I really, really haven't.
Ooh, that's opening up a can of worms, because I think there must have been a fair few. Wayne Rooney is at the back of the room going,
that's the wrong one. But yeah, look, this is a self-inflicted problem for West Brom, because they've replaced an inexperienced manager in Ryan Mason with an inexperienced manager in Eric Ramsey. But this has been an unmitigated disaster so far. And okay, you can point the finger at us and say, well, you were maybe praising it when he first came in, but what Eric Ramsey has done is just completely taken any of the good things that Ryan Mason put into this side, and there were a couple, and he's not done anything. He's made him worse. He conceded 3 goals in 4 games. 3 goals 4 times under Ryan Mason, and their biggest losing margin was a 3-0 away defeat at Millwall. But after that, in the games that they did lose, they only lost games by 1 goal. Under Eric Ramsey, they're getting battered. They conceded 12 goals in 4 games. They scored just 3 times in that time, and they're creating nothing. 0.14 XG in this game. 5 touches in Portsmouth's box. They're not doing anything. The draw against Derby were very comfortable in that game until a set-piece chaos at the end. This team's very, very fortunate that Sheffield Wednesday are -7 points, because they would be in it in a normal season.
Yeah, I mean, 5 touches in the opposition box is pitiful, isn't it? And Eric Ramsey said after the game that it was a performance we won't look back on with any pride whatsoever, which
Jesus Christ.
is great. I mean, he's not wrong. They were terrible. It was probably their worst performance of the season, which is a very low bar anyway. They weren't helped by some poor goalkeeping by Max O'Leary. I thought he should have done better with every single one of the goals. But his teammates weren't exactly helping him here. They managed, just as you say, 5 touches in the opposition box, 1 shot on target in the entire game. It was bad. Really, really bad. And it was topped off nicely by Isaac Price having to be held back from confronting West Brom fans afterwards. So yeah, a torrid afternoon for West Brom. Eric Ramsey really struggling, as you say. He has made them worse. You're absolutely right there. And I'm not really sure where West Brom go next after this. But we've criticised West Brom a lot in recent weeks, Justin. I wanted to focus on praising Portsmouth in this section, because they've had their struggles this season, have been better recently with just 1 loss in 9. Not too many convincing wins in that run, but this was definitely that, wasn't it?
Well, you've got to punish opposition, and they did that. I think one thing that they probably have taken from that performance against Southampton last week is the confidence and pressure that they applied to Southampton. They did the same here, and they punished the poor team. They probably didn't do enough of that against Southampton. There's a lack of quality at times in that game, but here they showed it. And that 1 defeat in 9 really has transformed the look for Portsmouth. But the other thing that has also transformed Portsmouth is Ibu Adams coming in. I'm really, really jealous that he's so loved, because at Derby he was fantastic, but he's given that midfield newfound energy and drive, which is needed. Milanic Ali as well has been a masterstroke of a signing, probably one of the signings of the window because of what he can produce, but also what he has produced already. Because what he has produced is goals and assists and a decent amount of creativity from the left flank. Connor Chaplin getting goal involvements in this game He scored a very Connor Chaplin goal, but he got the assist for Ebu Adams as well, which is massive. His first Portsmouth goal since 2018. His first goal of the season. So hopefully he can go on a run. So things are peaking, well, not peaking, but they're coming to fruition at a very good time for Portsmouth. And this performance was fantastic. It built on a very positive performance against Southampton last week, and long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Portsmouth do stay up comfortably, then they are a good advert for sticking with your manager. Because this season and last season, there were times when they could have easily panicked and sacked John Mousinho, particularly this season. But they've stuck with him, and that patience appears to be getting rewarded. A big thing for me, though, is that they've had a really good transfer window. You've already mentioned Adams and Ali there. Keshi Anderson's come in, as has Adji Elise in the last couple of days, defender on loan from Sunderland, who was very highly rated before a couple of bad injuries. They've looked more at championship experience as opposed to their usual targets, who are quite often complete unknowns, and it seems to be working out for them. So Portsmouth look like they've turned a corner, which is great to see. So still a long way to go, but worth keeping in mind how bad they've had it with injuries recently. So when those players are back, things should hopefully improve even further, and maybe they will climb away from the relegation zone. And we'll finish off with an interesting scoreline on Friday night. Bristol City 0, Derby County 5. 3-word reviews for Derby. Barney and Chris say, them ramtastic Rams. John says, 5-star ramtastic. Dave says, ramtastic away form. For Bristol City, Phil and our patron says, absolute anal fisting.
Oh, God. Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the reason why I've got a screechy voice this evening, ladies and gents. A remarkable scoreline. The joint biggest away win of the season. Derby's joint biggest away win ever in league competition. And it just so happened to be my first away game in the Derby end for several years. So I've had worse Friday nights, Peachy.
Yeah, for full context, I was in the Lake District with a few mates, and at 7:30, we were like, shall we bother? Shall we go and watch this? We were in the pub next door, and we ended up going. Luckily, you were there, and I am insanely jealous because what unfolded was just unreal. Unreal. Oh, my God. Man-to-man, Derby were incredible. Bristol City were poor, but it takes a very switched-on team to really punish opposition. And Derby genuinely looked like they should be top of the league in this game, which is incredible because that's not happened this season.
No, it's definitely not. We've got a fair few Bristol City fans on the second-tier Patreon who I gave a bit of stick to on Friday night, and one of them, the aforementioned Phil, said, I'm paying £3.50 a month for the luxury of getting mocked.
That's fair.
Which, it's one of the many perks of becoming a Martin Patronson. So link in the description. But yeah, I could not believe what I was seeing in this game. Derby fans were doing olays after 20 minutes. Lewis Travis was doing back heels in his own half. The ground started emptying before half time. By the 70th minute, I think there were genuinely more Derby fans in the ground than Bristol City fans. I've never seen anything like it. But as far as the actual game is concerned, Derby could have won by more. They had other chances aside from the actual goals, including a remarkable block by Rob Dickey to stop 19-year-old Owen Eames from scoring his first ever senior goal, the heartless bastard. But I think this game was a classic example of one side being phenomenal, the other being disastrously bad. And yeah, you're right, Bristol City definitely played their part. But I do genuinely think the majority of it was Derby being top class. They were playing some brilliant football. And they did find themselves in the top 6 on Friday night before the Saturday round of games. But you see a performance like this, and I'm aware I'm saying this to the world's most cynical Derby fan, but in my eyes, Derby have got as good a chance as anyone outside of the top 5 of getting a playoff place. Maybe I'm just getting carried away after this ridiculous performance, but I don't see why not.
I don't see why not, but I do see home form being a problem in them getting a top 6 place. So if they improve their home form, absolutely, because away form they're the best in the division, aren't they? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how good it is. Last season they couldn't win away from home for love nor money up until John Eustace came in. He had one away win until he arrived. So if Derby do sort out their home performances, yes, they've got an incredibly good chance of doing it. That's the problem, though. That's the problem. They are so poor at home. So poor at home. Genuinely one of the worst teams at home I've seen in a long time. So if they sort that form out, yes, absolutely. If Dion Sanderson, Matt Clark perform as good as they did here, as they do every week, and David Ozo and Lewis Travis in the midfield dominate, and Bobby Clark is as so graceful as he was here, then it all clicks, and yes, Derby will get the playoff place. But yeah, home form, that's a problem.
Yeah, you're right. But it's wide open. So it's definitely up for grabs, isn't it? And if we do have a top 5, then there is just one playoff place up for grabs between about a dozen teams. But as far as Derby are concerned, their away form is what is really making them stand out above the rest, isn't it? Because you're right, they're top of the away table now. 7 wins from 10 on their travels. That's an astonishing record for anyone in the division, let alone a side who have been mid-table for most of the season. But yeah, you're right, the obvious problem is, if that's their away record, how bad is their home form? And the answer is not great. Just 1 win in 7. Bizarrely, the one game they've won in that time was against Middlesbrough. But the frustrating thing is, so many of those games they should have won. But if they can improve that home form, then yeah, who knows where the season could go. I've always said if Carlton Morris was fit, then Derby would have been in the top 6 already. I still believe that. Possibly even the top 5 group of teams. But he's back on the grass training now, which is huge. Lewis Travis has looked excellent since coming back into the team. Ryan Brewster had his best game in a Derby shirt on Friday night. Bobby Clark and David Ozo only getting better and better. Hard not to get excited after Friday's performance, and I'm willing to get carried away just like that, Justin. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier podcast, and this is the polls where we give the viewers on our YouTube live stream the chance to have their say on what's going on from across the Championship. So the first question we had was this: was Javi Gracia right to resign at Watford, Justin? Yes or no?
Well, he got sacked anyway. The odds are against him, so yeah, why not? Safe face.
55% of people said yes, he was right to resign. 45% said no. Will Coventry finish in the top 2 this season? This is an interesting one. Yes or no?
Oh my God, it's so hard because if Ipswich are winning now, then the recency bias would carry me over the line and say no, they're not going to finish in the top 2. But I think they could just edge it. I can't see them being this bad for the rest of the season.
Well, you look at the table; they're still in an unbelievable position. They're 5 points clear of 3rd place.
Just another thing to bottle, Ryan.
Well, exactly. Because when you've thrown away a 10-point lead in the space of just 2 months, that 5-point lead can very easily deteriorate very quickly, can't it? 32% of people said yes, they will finish in the top 2. 68% said no. And finally, how many keepy uppies can you do? 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, or 21 plus?
I think 11 to 20, and then
you can do more than that, can't you?
I probably can, but
you can score from the halfway line, just like Josh Windass, mate.
Yeah, you're right. I absolutely can. I can also ping passes left, right, and centre, as you could attest to, Ryan. But I just think keepy uppies are an overrated skill, unless you're Brazilian.
Okay, I guess. Fair play to the Brazilians. 36% of people said they couldn't do more than 5. 28% said they could do more than 21. 25% said 6 to 10. 11% said 11 to 20. So there you go, ladies and gents. If you're a patron, subscriber, or a YouTube community member, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about the most bizarre transfer sagas in Championship history, which is very timely with it being transfer deadline day tomorrow. If you're not signed up yet, audio listeners can head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. And for YouTube viewers, just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button on our channel page. We'll be going live in a separate stream in just a few minutes, so stick around and join in with the conversation over there. Just a reminder, we'll be back again at 6 o'clock on Monday night for a transfer deadline day roundup. We'll be answering your questions and talking about all the biggest deals that happen in the Championship from across transfer deadline day. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
My voice is just about hung on. And a big thank you for listening.